Yes to everything. All right, Isabella, I don't need to introduce this activity to you. We've been doing this for years. Yes to everything, Isabella, is winning overrated?
Yes, of course, I think winning is overrated. And it's honestly, it seems a little bit counterintuitive, but if you think about it just a little bit, it is pretty intuitive that winning is overrated. I think it's overrated in two senses. One, in that you actually learn so much more when you lose. When you do things wrong, obviously, you can learn from the experience much more than, if you keep doing things right. You don't think you have to practice it anymore if you feel like you're just keep doing it, like if you just keep doing it right, right? And I think even on very small scales, like doing math questions, I always realize that when I do a question wrong, I learn so much more from the question than like when I get it right. So I think in that sense, winning is overrated, but also in another sense that the idea that everyone should win or we should strive to win, I think is also kind of overrated because it really puts such an unrealistic standard and like an expectation on people that we should always strive to win when it's really not possible. And it really puts too much pressure on people to think that winning is the most important thing we should strive for in any competition. And I think that what should be more rated is, the ability to learn from these experiences more than winning.
Yeah, well said. It kind of reminds me of the Waldorf education that they don't allow their students to compete until grade five, until they can understand the concept of winning and losing, because is such a powerful force in a young person's life. They look at the kids winning, they get all the glory, all the attention. And so what does that mean? Automatically means if you don't win, you don't get to be part of that. And so, they say that the journey is the destination. And I think it's the Japanese proverb that says, there's much to learn in defeat, little to learn from victory.
A lot of times I feel like in my own life as well, this is probably something I have to work on. It's like I try too hard to succeed, and I think I focus a lot more on the outcome. And I think this is something I really have to change about my mindset. But I really see how this can be detrimental. It can put way too much pressure on myself. And I think like overall in life, this makes things a lot more stressful than it should be.
It makes you wonder how these like really high level Olympian athletes operate, because they really are goal driven. Like they're in it to win it. They put that pressure on themselves and then try to live up to that, that high standard. So I wonder if it takes a certain person to kind of withstand that pressure, or like you. I think winning is kind of like a nice side dish that if or dessert, right? It's like it's gravy on the french fries, right? If you win, that's wonderful. But as far as debating is concerned, for me, debating is for life. And when I teach debating, I don't teach it for tournament sake. And every once in a while, we will develop a talented debater like yourself, and they will win in a tournament. But to me, that's neither here nor there. For me, debating is for life. That the main thing about debating isn't about winning and losing. It's about this process of learning and expanding your horizons and becoming the bigger, stronger version of yourself. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think so. Like, even if you do decide to like take a break from formal debating or stop to going to tournaments for a while, I don't think that means you stop debating. I feel like debating really is for life, as the podcast name is. I think it's like a skill. It's truly a skill and a mindset that you're taught, and then you just adopt it and you keep having it in your everyday life, and you can apply debating skills to everything you do. You can persuade people better. And yeah, I
Love it.
don't think having tournaments be your goal should be like the main reason why you debate.
All right. Round two. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Should parents force their kids to read books?
Of course, parents should force their kids to read books. I feel like a lot of people around me, and myself included, we've stopped reading physical books after, around like grade four, grade five. And I think that comes with, getting busier with high school and getting like the digital world where everyone can go on, YouTube, Netflix, and have much quicker entertainment and everything. And we see parents kind of restrict their kids in terms of how much time they can spend on their computers, on their phones, how much time they can spend playing video games, but they don't necessarily change this time into time for reading. I think um, when parents really reinforce that reading is really important to these children, they actually give them like the books, the resources to read. Where I think When I was little, I often felt like my parents didn't want me to read as much because I was spending so much time reading. Whereas now they're simply telling me to get off my phone or, go outside or something. They don't actually emphasize that I should read and I think because I've stopped reading so much, I really feel like a part of me has kind of been missing since when I was reading
Oh,
a lot more when I was little.
yeah, well said. I feel a little bit conflicted on this one because for me, growing up, reading was so important, and it's almost like I consider it a second education. Like there are kids who don't read and kids who read, and the ones who read are more literate, more well spoken, they have a higher vocabulary. Not to mention, you have friends in those books that you read, right? These characters that you get back to every night, and it feels comforting to read a book. And that whole experience of it just getting smarter, getting expanding your horizons, aside from traveling, reading is the best way to see the world. It's and see what's out there and meet different thinking people. So on one hand, I think reading is just the greatest. But on the other hand, like what you said, should parents force their kids to read and put books in front of them, and they should they lament when their kids don't read? I don't know, because the world is quickly changing. And so, kids are not reading those books anymore, it's true, but they're reading other things. And they're also getting stories in other ways that we never had before. Like, when you play a video game, it's really just an elaborate novel, and it's an exploration and a story and a mythology is woven in, and so people are getting their stories, and it's just in different ways. So is it possible that all these other media have supplanted the need for reading, and it's not really that detrimental to society?
I think I understand where you're coming from, and I understand like how we can still gain these stories, gain these experience through other like forms of media. But I think something else that's really important about reading that I wasn't able to mention in my speech is the fact that reading really requires you to be patient and really requires you to focus because you're not shown things. You have to really use your imagination. You have to sit there. You can't be walking around. You can't be like, um, doing other things while you watch a movie. You really have to focus. And I think something really detrimental about, the rise of social media and everything where kids are much more addicted to their cell phones and stuff is
Yeah,
that we really aren't patient enough to read these books.
yeah.
So I think reading really helps with our focus overall as well, which is something we don't get with other forms of media.
Well, yeah, there certainly is a measure of discipline required to read a book, and that discipline, whether you find it through reading books or going to church or jogging or whatever you do, that discipline then becomes your best friend in life, right? Because how many things in life that we have to do even though we'd rather not. In any case, round three. Okay, yeah, as you know, round three is the tough one.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah,
This
of
is so
course.
silly. I can't believe I gave you this one. This is like the classic question that I ask in the demos that makes all the kids laugh. I could have probably given you a much more heady topic, but you get this fun one. You ready?
All right. Let's see what it
Should you punch your bully in the face?
is. I see what you mean now. But of course you should punch your bully in the face. I think my parents included, they do tell me, or they told my brother, I think, if somebody bullies you at school, make sure, or if somebody physically bullies you at school, make sure you physically bully them back. And I think there is some truth in that because no matter how hard the school system punishes them, no matter how hard like they suspend them, no matter what they do to them, they're not going to physically punish the child. And I think what's really important for a child to learn is that there is fairness in this world if you are willing to seek out this fairness for yourself. And I think if they get suspended for like a week, a month, it does not matter if they do not get physically, bullied the same way that you were. And I think for a child to learn this and for the child to know that they have power in themselves and that they can use their body to inflict, the same amount of punishment that they experience, I think it's really important for children to learn that, they have this power within themselves. So yes, of course, you should stand up to your bully and even punch them in the face.
I'm really having a hard time figuring out whether you actually mean that or not. Do you actually mean that?
I'm not sure. I haven't thought about that. Yeah, I just thought
You
yes, so
haven't
I have
thought.
to.
See, that's the power of debating, ladies and gentlemen. That's the power of debating, because you really had me going. I thought, wow, your parents encouraged you guys to fight back, and all of your debating arguments were solid. You had me believing. You know what? if you punch your bully in the face and you get suspended, nothing bad comes of that. You become all of a sudden, the cool guy at
Yeah.
school. You get some street cred. You teach the bully not to bully you, or something's gonna happen, right? Bullies don't bully people who can fight back. So, yeah, I don't know, but I always thought too, like when you're raising a kid physically, like there's only so much the school policy can protect you. But if you're actually getting beat down, you have to do something to stop the beating, and you can't activate a process to protect you in that moment. So you have to do something. You have the right to protect your body and limb. Isn't that your human right?
Yeah, I think so. In the same way where we have like self-defense, where you don't get, you won't be put in jail if you punch someone for self-defense.
In this country, we have a right to not be harassed by people. And I will say this also, every school has an anti-bullying policy. I'm not sure if you're aware, but that's by law. Every school has to have an anti-bullying policy. So if you're the kid at school being bullied, and then you tell the teacher or administrator, now it's their legal obligation to activate the school policy against bullying. So if they don't do that, if they don't take those measures to protect you, that's in the policy, now you have legal recourse against the school.
Also, the good thing about, physically fighting back is that, no matter how much you tell on the person, no matter how much you kind of like pull out the documents and say, hey, this is why we can't bully people, I think a bully will still bully you if they know that you're physically weak. And I think being physically strong is a really strong deterrent because people, some people aren't affected by being suspended. People aren't affected by like, emotional deterrence, but people will be like always deterred if they know that they will be physically harmed if they continue bullying. So I think it
Well,
is probably at the end of the day most effective.
I think, okay, we also have to add a caveat that these things are true when you're young, especially. You have to watch out. Like the world is a scary place when you're young because it's all fair game, a wrong look, them's fighting words. But when you get to my age, like 50 plus, thank God people are not like hunting you down anymore. Because if what you said was true for me, I would be a sitting duck out there with my bad back and my sciatic cut. I can barely hobble around out there.